Hello and welcome to Reggie'sTake.com podcast number 27. The 2016 movie season began with everyone sitting in a pool that definitely wasn't dead, but when a billionaire who likes to go out at night as a bat looking to take down a steely man in what should have been the fight of the year couldn't even live up to a fight on the Jerry Springer show. Then we were asked, whose side are you on when it came to a civil war? And no, I don't mean the North or the South. And when some men were looking to continue their success from their days of future past, they just hoped it wouldn't become an actual apocalypse. But movie fans shouldn't worry, as we all know who to call, right? If that phone call was just okay, then you definitely needed to hop the next flight for a trek into the beyond that was an adventure worth taking to the furthest star. Join my guest and myself as we take a look back at what 2016 has offered. And if you and your squad haven't committed movie suicide yet, don't worry, there are still plenty of quality movies you will want to check out before 2017 rolls in. Joining me today is my guest, James from The True Believers. Welcome.
I hear one of the next movies coming up is going to be quite strange.
Yes, it could also go rogue too, but I should start.
Puns galore.
Oh yeah, I hope you caught all those references.
I did, actually. Fantastic.
I think we should point out first to anyone who does listen to us, we are not full-time movie-going people. We have real jobs to pay the bills. So
most of the movies that
we go to is we pick and choose the ones we like to go see or we think is interesting or find interesting. So when we say we're going to look back at 2016, we're going to kind of look back at the ones we did see, and then we're going to kind of go forward and take a look at the few that are coming out towards the end of this year that we're interested in.
Usually I see at least a couple non-superhero movies, and this year I haven't yet. So last year I saw
I've seen Finding Dory.
How was that? Was that good?
That was excellent.
Good.
That was excellent.
Because I was wondering, because that's a sequel.
If you do go see Finding Dory, stay through all the way through the credits.
Pixar's doing that now too.
It's worth it though. If you go see Finding Dory, or if you haven't already seen it, stay through the credits.
Are they tying it into WALL-E somehow?
No, no. It's a reference back to the first movie.
Oh.
If you remember the end of the first movie, Finding Dory, you can figure out what they may or may not do.
I finally saw Finding Nemo for the first time a couple years ago. I never saw it until maybe last year or the year before. It's a good movie.
My wife and I saw that on our honeymoon, and of course within the first 10 minutes I look over and my wife's bawling her eyes out. So
it's a really sad first 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
All those baby fish die. All that caviar's gotten eaten. But I actually thought Finding Nemo was good. Actually,
it's one of the highest grossing movies they've had.
Yeah, and out of all, I haven't seen all the Pixar movies, but out of all the ones I've seen, I think they've all been good. I still haven't seen Monsters Incorporated.
Oh, that's excellent.
I saw Monsters University, and that one was kind of meh.
Yeah,
that one is probably the worst one.
But they haven't technically had what we call a box office bomb.
No,
they haven't had that yet. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's more of a kind of a good thing that they're careful about what they do.
Out of all the movies I saw, they were all high quality cartoons. And if Monsters University was the worst one I saw, then, again, that wasn't a bad movie. So.
No, and even this year's box office, at least as of this recording, I mean, you got two of the top three right now are animated movies, and as far as their earning potential. So
I need to go see some more. I haven't seen Monsters Incorporated. I haven't seen Cars, although I think I would have to watch that with like a 5-year-old. I don't think
I'm not a big.
Those are for kids.
The first Cars movie is okay. The second one I can do with or without. I mean, they're both okay. I'm just not big on the Cars thing.
What else? I haven't seen Brave or the new Caveman movie. I haven't seen that Inside Out yet. Sean, who's been on the show, said it was really good.
My favorite Pixar movie is The Incredibles.
That one's really good. I think my favorite might be... I liked WALL-E a lot. Incredibles was really good.
I would say Incredibles...
Up was really good. I really liked Up.
I said Incredibles, Monsters, Inc., and then Up would probably be my top three.
Toy Story 3 was really good.
Right.
The first Toy Story, of course. I was a kid when that... I was like maybe 10 when that came out. And that movie was pretty groundbreaking.
Oh, yeah. And of course, who originally owned the beginnings of Pixar before it got sold off, or what became Pixar. That was George Lucas, who created the computer that eventually...
Was it really?
It was all George Lucas, and at some point in the 80s, he kind of sold that part of his...
I thought it was...
off.
What about...
At some point, I think Steve Jobs
got
got involved in
with
it.
yeah.
But that was after it was sold off from Lucas.
I didn't know that.
He kind of developed the technology.
The same. It had a lot of the same writers. That's why Toy Story is exactly like the same story, especially Toy Story 3, almost the exact same story as another animated cartoon, The Brave Little Toaster. It was the same writers and stuff, but the lamp on that, instead of obviously toys that are alive makes more sense than household appliances, but it was a cartoon that I owned on VHS, and the lamp was based on the Pixar lamp, I believe.
Yeah.
Like,
I know they did 2 or 3 little shorts before they did Toy Story to test.
Yeah, and the Pixar lamp was the short.
Was one of them. 2016 been an interesting movie year. I mean, basically it started back technically in January with Kung Fu Panda 3, which I have not seen yet. I know you haven't seen it.
I'm not going to watch it. So sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. But the first big movie for us really was Deadpool.
That's right.
With Ryan Reynolds coming back as a superhero character. Excellent movie.
The third time's a charm, I guess.
I guess so.
Is that the third time, or was there another time that he tried to play superhero?
Well,
because he was in Blade Trinity, Green Lantern, and Deadpool. Okay, fourth time.
Because he also appeared
because he was Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, that one, the first.
So
Wolverine.
I guess 4 times a charm.
Yeah. But I'm guessing this will probably be his last time he does it too.
Oh, he finally got it.
He finally got it right, or at least he finally found a role that was right for him, or it didn't get mucked up.
That was a funny movie.
Oh yeah,
I need to watch it again.
I just rewatched it last night.
I've only seen it once. I didn't rewatch it in theaters. I only watched it once.
That was a funny movie.
Yeah,
it was done well. It wasn't overly drawn out.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's the movie of the year.
It did great, and
it's really funny.
It did really good, and currently right now it sets as the number 5 movie of the year as far as box office totals.
It's really big in Russia, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. No, because Russians are insane.
Okay. After rewatching Deadpool last night, I went back to the beginning. That whole slow motion with the one song, which I didn't write down, that sings, the whole intro that they...
Oh, yeah.
From that SUV fight. And I wrote down all the things that you come up, normally you'd get director by and all that stuff. But, they in Deadpool. And in case you don't remember everything they put on there, it's in order. The first one comes up as Some Douchebag's film starring God's Perfect Idiot. And then that's followed by a copy of People magazine with the cover of Ryan Reynolds on it with the words Sexiest Man Alive. Interesting. Then a hot chick, a British villain. That's followed by the wallet with a picture of Green Lantern falling out of it, which is kind of funny. And then the comic relief, a moody teen, a CGI character, a gratuitous cameo, which that's towards the end where he stapled.
That is so funny because
Wolverine's face on there. Yeah,
because everyone was just waiting for it to be Hugh Jackman and it's just
Hugh Jackman's face. Yeah, produced by Ass Hats, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then written by the real heroes here, and then directed by an overpaid tool.
And I love that. The real heroes. Like, that's so up its own ass.
That guy, the guy who directed Deadpool, Tim Miller, that was his actually first directing of any sort of movie.
Really?
The one Deadpool that got leaked online a couple years before they actually made the movie that wasn't intended to be seen by the public. It was only for studio heads. He did that in order to prove what he was looking at Tim Miller, and then of course it eventually got
screen
leaked.
test.
It eventually got leaked online, and that's how basically.
Have you seen it? I haven't seen it. I need to watch it.
It's been a while.
Was Ryan Reynolds
voiced it, but it was more of a CGI type of thing, animatic type of thing.
Okay.
But it to watch it, and then of course they recreated that whole thing, live action in the movie. Yeah, that movie is still worth it second time around.
Oh, yeah.
That was really good. And, of course, we can pick on, seems like it's become a customary this year, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, I was probably a little harsh in my intro when I said it didn't even live up to a fight on the Jerry Springer show. It's probably actually a little bit better than a fight on Jerry Springer's show, but...
Might be Maury. Actually, I don't know. I think Maury's actually worse.
If it was Maury Povich, then you'd have to say the results are back to who's the father.
Batman, you are not the
father.
It's so stupid.
I know. Yeah, and I know you haven't seen the extended edition yet.
One of these days I'll watch it.
But I really think you're going to find it won't necessarily improve your overall opinion of the movie, maybe, but it is a better version of the movie.
Yeah, but it's that movie was not very good. It was.
It had its issues.
Yeah, it did. It did. Kind of beating a dead horse by talking about it so much. Hopefully the sequel will be better. Maybe the third time will be a charm.
And from what I keep reading, Dave, supposedly Warner Brothers have made some tonal shifts. At least with they couldn't do it with Wonder Woman because it was already too far gone.
Of course,
into production, but they've made tonal shifts starting with Justice League. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but they made changes to Suicide Squad, and that ended up being bad. So
well, that was reshoots though. So I wonder if they just would have stuck to what they originally shot, if it would have been better instead of trying to reinsert stuff to lighten it and just left it alone.
No.
You kind of have to wonder.
Sounds like either way, the story was bad. More on Suicide Squad in a moment.
Oh, yeah, we can get to that. But I did read here, and I didn't read it completely thoroughly, but one site was saying that it sounds like Warner Brothers may be trying to actually film the solo Batman movie sometime within the next 18 months. So it sounds like Warner Brothers is getting closer to actually making that happen, which if Ben Affleck seems to have as much input and say on that movie as it seems like he does, then that may be the one DC movie that you may not have to worry about. Just my opinion, though. Maybe, but we'll see. Although I am looking forward to see what they do with Deadshot.
Yeah,
I am looking.
Is that going to be in Batman?
The solo Batman movie, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool that they're actually going with a different character like Deadshot, kind of getting away from the Jokers and the Two-Faces and Riddlers and all that.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to that. Probably the best superhero movie of the year that was out, this is probably hands down regardless, is Captain America Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I
just watched that one again recently. It's such a good movie. Like, it's so good. One of the best things about that movie is that it doesn't have that big maniacal cackling villain that all superhero movies have. Like,
the villain's really more in their internal struggle with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, they put what's his face in there technically as the villain, but he was more or less the person kind of feeding off both sides.
The
instigator, yeah. I forget his name. Baron.
His name was Zemo.
He was.
I don't think he was a Baron in the movie, but yeah, it was Zemo.
For some reason, I get Baron stuck in my head.
Well, that's what he was called in the comics, is Baron Zemo. And the interesting thing about him is, I remember when I always really liked that character. In some ways, I liked him better than Red Skull, but at the same time, he was just exactly the same thing as Red Skull. Like, literally. It's another Nazi who went through a weird experiment and his face is messed up. Like, that's like literally the exact... In the comics now, in the Avengers, Baron Zemo is actually the one who killed... when Stan Lee brought Captain America back, he wanted Bucky to be dead, so that Captain America would be all alone in the 1960s. So he meets Baron Zemo, and Zemo is the one who killed Bucky. And actually, in those early years in the Avengers, Baron Zemo was, along with the Enchantress, who's a Thor villain, those two were really like the big Avengers villains in the early days. But I really like what they did with the character. They totally just reimagined him, and I really, really liked it.
Okay, if you throw out Loki, and of course we don't know exactly what Doctor Strange is going to look like. I mean, we got a good idea from the trailers, but if you throw out Loki, who would say who has been Marvel's second best villain? Throwing out Loki, because we all know Loki's probably the best one they've had.
That's tough. I honestly really liked Ultron. I know not everyone is with me on that. I thought the idea of an artificial intelligence who is both insane and immature, rather than the typical humans are what is it with robots? They're always like, humans are illogical, whereas Ultron is completely illogical. His whole motivation doesn't make sense because he's very much like a teenager. I thought was really interesting. So I really liked Ultron. I also liked it's kind of tough. They don't really have a whole lot of strong villains in there. Well, Red Skull. Red Skull would probably be their number 2. Red Skull or Ultron. Again, I like the Mandarin, both versions, both Ben Kingsley and the Guy Pearce version.
You just had to bring
I liked him.
Up.
I know. I liked them. I would say all 3 of those are good villains.
Now, if they'd have done the Mandarin like the way I was hoping for, I'd say Mandarin might even outdo Loki in my book. But the fact they did that whole Trevor crap, it just ticked me off. So
yeah, see, I liked all 3 of those villains. Again, like, not everyone's with me on Mandarin. Not everyone's with me on Ultron. I think most people would probably agree that Red Skull. And then after that, it's like...
Gets a little muddy.
I liked Jeff Bridges' character in the first Iron Man.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he's not...
He was an interesting...
He's not like a traditional villain, though. He's more like just like a douchebag. He kind of reminded me more like a Bond villain, maybe.
Yeah.
But even they have kind of the big weakness of Iron Man, of the first Iron Man, which is a near perfect movie. The big weakness of Iron Man, though, is like, instead of doing something interesting with him at the end, they just put him in a suit. And that's why, that's kind of the big problem with that villain, is it's like, oh, okay. Marvel's getting better about, like, especially with, I'll say it, Baron Zemo. They're getting better with getting away from just like the big fight at the end and actually making the villain more interesting. But yeah, in the early days, it was kind of typical paint by numbers with that first one. Yeah, I don't know. That's about it. We haven't really seen enough Thanos to really... No. We've seen cameos
here and there
in 3 movies, and that's it. So we don't know anything about Baron. Now, if you're talking the TV universe, that's another story. They've got Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, and Purple Man.
Oh, yeah.
Are great villains.
I say
Punisher was a really good villain. So was Elektra.
I almost say the Fist, though, is probably the one that's probably the standout so far.
Oh, yeah, totally. I haven't seen Sharon Carter yet, which I hear got canceled, which is kind of a shame because that looked like a really good show.
Agent Carter?
Yeah.
Yeah, they killed it after 2 seasons. That, and also Haley Atwood, she's on a news show now for ABC. So there was even a question of, even if ABC wanted to continue on with the 3rd season, how it would get done and when it would get done, because now she's on this news show and I don't remember the name of it.
See, that's a problem with putting those shows on ABC. They really got to focus on just having them on Netflix.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll give her another season on Netflix. You'll never know. But I can't really find her show to stream. I'll look it up later. But the TV show villains have actually been pretty good. Like, the TV shows have their problems, but I think villains is not one of them. The villains have all been pretty strong. Because even some of the minor villains on Daredevil, like Nobu, that Japanese samurai with the weird chain whip, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, why did we watch, what's his name, do this in Iron Man 2? This is way better here.
You mentioned something during your whole thing about the villains there, and now I've lost my train of thought, and I can't remember what I'm going to bring up. But, oh well, I guess we'll move on. I'll come back to it if it pops back in my head. And, of course, we got basically the 3rd movie of the first-class X-Men, if you want to say, with X-Men Apocalypse in May.
Is the trilogy of that.
Yeah. I mean, some people, some people are still saying that, because I was, one of my podcasts I watch and listen to, they brought it up. Someone had asked them a question if they really still thought that Jennifer Lawrence just mailed in her performance at the role. They were kind of split on that.
I actually don't think so. In the trailers, I think that they used some of her worst takes in the trailers, because when I watched the movie, she was fine.
Yeah.
Like, she was really good. So, no, I don't think she phoned that in. She might have phoned it in a little bit, but she did a really good job, I think. I really liked her in it.
X-Men Apocalypse, I mean, it was good. I mean, it wasn't a Days or Future Past type of...
It was a pretty forgettable movie, and it's got a lot of problems. I wasn't...
The ending seemed a little weak to me.
It had a lot of issues that I really didn't like. I want to say it's one of the worst X-Men movies, but the worst X-Men movies are way worse than this one. It's nowhere near as bad as X-Men 3 or X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like, it's nowhere near as bad as those. But it is definitely... I've heard that on the DVD, they show the deleted scene of them at the mall, which is great because that's the scene that I remember, like, I was excited, and they barely show it. They just, drive, and then they do the little Return of the Jedi joke, which is one of those jokes that ends up putting the foot in their mouth, because it's like, yeah, this is technically the 3rd first-class movie, and this is also definitely the worst one, so, like, I know you're making fun of X-Men 3, but oops.
And for the time period, they actually technically, I think we discussed before, they could have technically put Superman 3 on that marquee.
They could have. No one would have gotten that joke.
No, but the geeky ones would have gotten it.
The big thing is, and I would definitely, once I might get like a box set, and when I do, I'll watch that movie again. Like, I will say, and I like the new cast, but at the same time, I felt the biggest problem with that movie is when we went into Days of Future Past, which was a great movie. But when we went into that, it kind of felt like, oh, they can restart the series. They can basically do like a soft reboot of the series, and now we can do whatever we want. And we can have some of the same actors, some of them will be different. That's okay. We're gonna do like they did with Star Trek, but like after watching the soft reboot, it's like, no, this doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it's been quote rebooted. It's still gonna wind up doing the same crap that the old ones did. Like already we're getting kidnapped by Stryker again, and it's like, come on. Like, so no, I didn't hate the movie, but I'm hoping after Wolverine, they just retire. Like, I like the new cast. I really did. I really liked the actors. Of course, what's her name from Game of Thrones? She's really good. And I really like the actors who played Nightcrawler, Storm, Cyclops. I liked what they did with Cyclops, but I really just think it's time to just retire that, put it on the shelf for a few years, and then bring it back.
Although they say they're going to do another X-Men movie set in the 90s,
of course they are.
Since they kind of seem to be moving through the decades. But then again, McAvoy, Fassbender, and Lawrence.
By the way, X-Men in the 90s, yes, we all loved the TV show, but if you go back and read the comics, X-Men in the 90s is the worst. So have at it, Fox. Go ahead and make it feel as dumb. We all love Deadpool, who was done by Rob Liefeld, who has a cameo in Deadpool. Rob Liefeld sucks. I love him for creating Deadpool, and I feel like people are too mean to him because when we were 10, we all loved him. We all thought he was awesome. But like, you go back, that stuff is terrible. So have at it. Deadpool didn't feel like a Rob Liefeld movie. Let's make it feel like a Rob Liefeld movie. Let's make sure that there's always like a rock or something in the way of people's feet because he doesn't draw feet. And then let's make sure everyone has so many muscles that it's anatomically incorrect. Let's make sure we're all wearing 20 pouches and huge guns that no one could possibly lift. Like, let's do all that. And that's the other thing. Like, we already did Apocalypse, so we've done Apocalypse. Next is Mr. Sinister, which is going to be in Wolverine. He's a cool character, but he's like just like Apocalypse. He's another guy, old guy, although he's from the Victorian era, so he's nowhere near as old, but he's another old guy with a lot of weird technology, and it's like the exact same thing. Although I think he could be a little more interesting. You know, with Apocalypse, they made it he just woke up, but with Mr. Sinister, since he has that Essex company, like, it seems like they're gonna make it to where he's been around for like 100 years, and his company just does weird scientific research and stuff. So, but like, who are they gonna have on? So they've pretty much used up every villain. Who are they gonna have another X-Men that takes place in the 90s? Mojo, Sugar Man? Why not just do Stryker again? Who cares? Like, I really don't know what they're doing at this point. I can't think of any. We've used a Hellfire Club, we've used Magneto, obviously, we've used Apocalypse now. I don't know who else is left.
And how good can another X-Men movie be, especially if they can't get James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender
are they not going to be
Jennifer Lawrence? Basically, their contract reads that they signed says that if all three agree to return, that all three will come back. But if one decides they don't want to do it, then the other two also don't have to do it. So it's basically
they're relying on Jennifer Lawrence.
Basically,
she's the
it's
one
either
that
all
I don't
in.
think they're going to get back.
It's basically they're all in or they're all out. If they're all do it, great, they'll all do it. But if not, none of them don't have to do it.
Well, honestly, like, Mystique is a character that you could write out at this point. Like, I think her story's pretty much done, unless you just want to make her the leader of the X-Men, which at that point, that's getting kind of weird.
To me, only one of those three you really technically would have to bring back is McAvoy.
Yeah, that's true. Because we can finally
he can do without
we can stop
do without Magneto, and you don't. We've done that enough. I mean, there's other characters out there.
That's the other problem with Apocalypse is Magneto and Professor X are sort of friends, but sort of not. And how much longer can we keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I really think it's time to, I thought that a soft reboot would be cool, but it's not. Like, I think it's really time to, and again, I didn't hate the movie. I liked the movie, but it's time to, like, stop.
And of course, we get the final time with Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart.
Exactly. That's when I feel like we should just. Fox can still make money off this. All they got to do is reboot it.
I'll focus on Deadpool for the next few years after this Wolverine
Fox
movie.
Isn't that smart? They're all like, what do they? They're ass hats. Just ask Ryan Reynolds. They're ass hats at Fox. Like, maybe Sony is worse, but I'm pretty sure Fox is like the worst company.
Sony's made mistakes, but I think at the same time, Sony realized if they want to continue their really really their lone superhero franchise and keep it viable, they had to do something different. And
Sony has other
they swallowed
problems.
their pride by making the deal with Marvel with Spider-Man and sharing him. They may not have liked it, but I think in the long run, it'll probably be better for them.
Sony also realized that Spider-Man's all they got. I mean, do they still have James Bond?
Actually, I think the movie rights was up after this past one.
Yeah.
So there's a bidding war, I think, that's supposedly, if I remember
Disney
right.
ought to get it. I just want Disney to have everything at this point. They make really good movies.
X-Men, James Bond, Star Trek. Hey, why not?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
We can all have the 10th Avengers movie. Kirk meets Vader meets Iron Man,
awesome. That'd be so cool.
And then, of course, we moved on to what could have been a really good reimagining of Ghostbusters. It turned out okay.
Let me just start off by saying this year has had so many movies
that could have been huge hits.
And this year has had more movies of this type than I can remember, and most of them have been pretty meh. This is another, Batman vs Superman wasn't good, X-Men Apocalypse was meh. This one was definitely meh.
Yeah.
I think actually X-Men might have been better than this one.
I mean, there's only 2 movies worldwide, taking in the worldwide totals, that crossed the $1 billion mark. One was Captain America Civil War, and one was a animated movie, Zootopia. Only 2 movies that
that was a Disney one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe
I
so.
never saw it.
But there's only 2 movies that crossed the $1 billion mark. And theoretically, there really should have been possibly 3, maybe even 4. Of course, as of this podcast, right now, Finding Dory is within about $30 million of hitting the $1 billion mark. But I don't know how much longer it has it out at the theater or not. Batman vs Superman should be in the top 5, and it's still sitting at number 7.
No.
So, I mean, I guess it's a good thing it still finished inside the top 10, but it should have been right up there, right along with Civil War.
Ghostbusters I saw it right before you and I did the podcast. I just went to the theater, saw it, and we did it.
And I saw it the week before you did.
And I got to say, when we were doing the podcast, I was like, yeah, it wasn't bad. And then the next day, I'd already forgotten about it.
Yeah.
X-Men Apocalypse was forgettable. This movie was really forgettable. I couldn't tell you what it was about at this point. The only thing I could tell you, I thought all the girls were pretty funny. I thought Chris Hemsworth was really funny.
The cameos from the original cast.
Oh, yeah,
funny.
that was funny.
And as I made mention before, it seemed like that one girl who was their technical guru kind of came up with the stuff really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of moved along in technology, which I guess that's a nitpick with this movie. But this movie could have been so much more, as we've made mention many times before. A sequel probably would have been a better idea. You still could have used the 4 girls, just made it a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, one of my 2 or 3 favorites from this year so far, Star Trek Beyond in late July.
Yeah, that one is...
That was an excellent movie.
I keep forgetting that Deadpool was this year. So, yeah, 3 good movies. Star Trek was really good.
Only problem with Star Trek, though, it really hasn't made a lot of money, unfortunately, for Paramount. I mean, it's only at $335 million worldwide at this point. I mean, it only made $158 million in the U.S.
I think part of that has to do with Star Wars
being out. Someone made mention before that I saw written or something that this is the first time that a Star Trek movie and Star Wars movies is coming out in the same year.
Yeah.
Because all previous times, it's never happened before. And with the first 2 movies that Abrams did, there was no mention of any more Star Wars movies coming down the line.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it drew a lot of audiences to those.
Myself included, I was a Star Wars person. I went and saw it like everyone else because it was like, it's close enough to Star Wars. But I really liked it, and then it turned me on to what Star Trek is.
Uh-huh. And, of course, Beyond, I thought they did a nice job in this one, or at least Justin Lin did, still having the big action like you were used to seeing with the first 2 of this particular reboot. But they also, I want to say, almost toned it down a little bit, too, to a certain extent. And I really thought they did an excellent job in remembering late Leonard Nimoy, his character of Spock.
I think so, too.
The original Spock. That was awesome. I can't wait for that to hit Blu-ray, but that's one I plan on picking up and rewatching again. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have a problem with the, quote, Kelvin timeline Star Trek or the Abrams Star Trek or whatever it is you want to call it. But, Star Trek needed some modernization.
Sure.
And the old school of what the original cast did with their movies, it worked for them in their time. And most of those are good movies. There's a couple of stinkers in there, but they just don't.
There's a couple in there that are way worse than Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh, yeah. Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 1 in my mind. Star Trek 3's not bad. Of the odd movies, it's probably the best of the odd movies. But, today's audience needs a little bit more faster paced movie to keep their attention. It just goes back to everything in society nowadays, cell phones and the instant gratification of computers and all that. It just makes it, you want it now, and the slow pace of a Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home.
Well, that's what what a good streaming show is for.
Take your time with it, draw out the plot.
Which I guess that's what they're doing. It's going to be on CBS streaming.
CBS All Access.
That's kind of like, I'm kind of tired of having to pay for so many different streaming.
In a certain sense, I think that's the way television's going now.
Which is fine, but it's like going to wind up being as expensive as cable.
You're going to have to pick
and choose. And there's going to be advertisements eventually once they get everyone away from, because that's what happened with cable.
Well, here's the good thing. Hulu and Netflix are doing it. You can pay one price, which is the lower price, and you get their advertisements.
Yeah.
Although Netflix never really does advertisements. And CBS Access has also now offered, if you want to pay like $4 or $5 more, like on Hulu, and now CBS Access starting to offer it, you can eliminate all their commercials. Yeah. Which, if you're all right with and most of those commercials on Hulu were never more than 30 seconds anyway. So it wasn't like it was.
Oh, I still pay the extra $2 to get rid of commercials.
Like, it is nice to be able to watch an entire show completely uninterrupted. What I like what they're going to do with Star Trek Beyond, that's coming to CBS All Access, not Beyond, Star Trek Discovery. Sorry, they're only going to do like 10 or 12 episodes, but they're still giving it the budget of what a 22 or 24 season episode. So in that sense, I'm happy, because at least you'll get hopefully good quality 10 or 12 episodes throughout the entire year. Now they're going to do like a running theme throughout the year. It's not going to be a bunch of one and done episodes.
No.
There's going to be a recurring plot or something going on throughout that entire first season, which is fine. I don't care. It's kind of like probably what they're doing with Daredevil and that kind of stuff, where you got a constant bad guy you're trying to deal with or something. So I look forward to it. I don't know if I want to call myself a true Trekkie, but
I would say you are.
I'm a Star Trek fan, in the sense is I'm willing to give definitely Star Trek Discovery a big part of my time anyway, and see where that goes. And then of course we got as you would refer to it, Suicide Squad. Now there's another DC movie.
The more that I'm gonna be straight up with you. The more I think of it, the more I think that might be the worst movie of the year.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's worse than Batman vs Superman. It's definitely worse than Ghostbusters or X-Men. Like, it was a bad movie. There were things that I liked. I liked Will Smith, Margot Robbie. I thought that, and I thought they were better than anything that was in
There's
Batman
some good
vs.
characters
Superman.
that have come out of that movie, but not necessarily.
But the movie itself was so boring and so
chopped up,
so trashy too. The killing the zombies was just, the zombie thing was so pedestrian and so lame. I mean, it really felt like a bad Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. I've played a bunch of Resident Evil games. I love them, but there are some bad ones. When they first start killing those guys and they're like running through the building and they're killing those zombie things, I had like an immediate flashback of playing Resident Evil Revelations. I know it's not a bad game, but there is a level in there that's really lame, and it reminded me, it's like the worst part of the game, and it reminded me of that. It was just bad.
I don't know, it seems like we constantly pick on DC, but
no, they constantly make bad movies. Like, I mean, we're really not. I've defended Man of Steel to a point. Like, I will defend that one to a point. These other two, I will defend to a point, but they're just, Suicide Squad was just not good. Just not good. And I didn't like Jared Leto.
If Jared Leto had filmed as many scenes as has been reported since the movie's come out, then Warner Brothers and DC, then in a certain sense, by the way, they sent the film out to theaters with chopping as much out of what he supposedly filmed, then they really didn't give us enough of him as the Joker to make I would say, an informed decision of whether or not he did a good or a bad job as the Joker.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like, if that is true,
I just don't like his whole take on this whole ghetto fabulous glam gangster thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just, come on. Like, I get it. I know, like, I know that's like a real persona with some of the real life very bad people, drug lords and stuff like that. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, man, that's so lame.
Could the Suicide Squad done without the Joker completely?
Probably. Like, that movie's such a mess. Like, honestly,
because the reason why I asked, that was probably the hardest character they had to write for, because knowing of what happened in the past, the last time the Joker was on screen. So
I guess they still want to do Harley Quinn.
And I guess if you can't really have Harley Quinn without having Joker.
Yeah, I mean you could, but that would be stupid. Yeah, they really couldn't.
I mean, could you have still done Harley Quinn and with mentioning the Joker without necessarily seeing him? Would that still work? Probably not.
It's possible, but the problem is, as much as I like Harley Quinn, as much as I liked Margot Robbie, the thing about that character is really, not initially, but that character has really become like the ultimate Hot Topic t-shirt it girl, like way before Suicides. You really, if you're going for the Hot Topic crowd, you really gotta have the Joker. Her and the Joker are basically Hot Topic's Romeo and Juliet, or West Side Story, or whatever you want to call it. And if you're going for that crowd, Jared Leto's the one to do, because every emo chick in the world loved 30 Seconds to Mars and loves Jared Leto. So, I mean,
as of this recording, I have the top 20 as far as the current box office as where it stands now for 2016. I'm just going to go quickly through bottom to top here.
It really sounded like I really hate Jared Leto. I don't. I just thought the whole thing was weird.
I really think you didn't get enough of him as a Joker to really make an informed decision.
I kind of think you're right. I think if we had more of those scenes, but I just felt like whenever he was on, it's like, oh yeah, it's him. Like I never really felt anything for him.
I also didn't like the fact with Suicide Squad, come to find out it's Amanda Waller they're going after to save. Why?
That was so lame.
I mean, you could have come up with somebody else.
Forgot about that.
I mean, to me, the Joker should have been the bad guy in the movie.
Lame. Yeah, he should have been like that.
The Joker should have been the bad guy in the movie.
Cut the zombies out. Make it about they have to infiltrate. Send these guys to infiltrate some sort of gang world and bring in the Joker.
Yeah,
that's what I thought it was going to be about. And then you would have had the conflict between Harley and Joker because she's. If she doesn't do her job, head is going to explode.
Yeah.
It really seemed like an obvious movie to make. Like, I'm sorry. And if you're going to go with zombies.
And it would have been a perfect way to reintroduce the Joker as a villain without having to have him in a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. But
they really screwed up. I mean,
see, my biggest fear now is that you're going to see Suicide Squad same way with Batman versus Superman. You're going to see an underrated cut or an extended edition of that movie come out with it.
They need to stop doing that. If you can't make it, I know it happens. I know, like Blade Runner, it happens once in a while, but it's gotten to a point where it's like, oh, so the movie that I spent $12 seeing was the shitty one. You want me to spend another $12 to see the good version? Like, I'm getting tired of that.
Yeah. If Warner Brothers does do that with Suicide Squad, then that's just telling me, or at least the audience, that they weren't comfortable, or at least they weren't, whatever the word is I'm looking for, with their theatrical version. So here, we're going to give you a different version. Hopefully you'll like this one better. But anyway, the top 20 for the box office for 2016, as it stands as of right now. Now, we've got other movies that are going to come out towards the end of 2016 that are probably going to completely change this, because there's at least two movies that we're going to discuss that haven't come out yet that are probably going to be inside the top 10, if not top 5 easily. But as it stands now, we got number 20, Sausage Party. That looked actually kind of like a fun movie to watch at least once.
Is that out yet? I thought it was
out. It's been out in theaters. I don't know when it's coming out for home video.
Okay, because I think one of my friends saw it.
So I heard
that's like a raunchy.
It's a very raunchy
Pixar
adult
type of movie,
animation movie.
Pixar, but a Pixar parody. I guess.
Sausage Party is at number 20. The Conjuring 2 at 19. Independence Day Resurgent is 18. And from what I understand, that has got to be one of the biggest bombs of the box office this year.
I forgot that movie existed. Poor Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Angry Birds at 17. Bad Moms terrible. At 16.
That one looked actually kind of good. I would rent that. Movies like that are more like a rental for me, but I love Mila Kunis. Yeah. So it's weird that she's now officially old enough to be playing a mom in a movie, though.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Well, she's had one kid and I think currently pregnant with the second.
But moms are always like 40 in movies.
I'll give you that. The Legend of Tarzan at number 15. That's one that I've heard good things about. It just hasn't done well at the theater.
Yeah.
I still want to watch it. Central Intelligence at number 14. That's with The Rock and Kevin Hart.
That didn't look too good.
I don't know. Ghostbusters at number 13. Kung Fu Panda 3 at 12, X-Men Apocalypse 11, Star Trek Beyond sitting at number 10. The fourth or fifth Jason Bourne movie, depending on how you want to look at it, is out. Is at number 9.
Forgot about that movie. I'll have to watch it. I
guess it's technically fifth in the whole series, but it's the fourth one that Matt Damon's done.
I've seen the Jeremy Renner one.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's never going to be as good as what the Jason Bourne ones were, but it was okay.
Did this one get decent reviews?
It's basically if you see
the
first,
like a 50% on.
I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes is, but basically from what I gathered is if you've seen the first 3 Jason Bourne movies, you know what you're getting with this one.
Yeah.
Which I guess is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's like been there, done that.
Yeah.
Why do I need to see it again? Suicide Squad at number 8, Batman vs Superman at number 7, Zootopia at 6, and that's as I said earlier, that's one of the 2 that
Suicide Squad number 8. That's crazy.
It's actually
that's pretty good.
It actually it had staying power in theaters, surprisingly enough.
I don't get that, and nobody liked it. Is it just because of Margot Robbie?
I don't know.
And Will Smith?
I really don't know. Zootopia, as I said, at number 6, and that's one of the 2 movies that did cross the $1 billion mark. Deadpool at number 5. The Jungle Book at number 4.
That was directed by Jon Favreau.
Yes.
And had like the whole cast of Iron Man as characters. But that looked interesting.
It did extremely well at the box office.
Did it really?
And it got good reviews.
I was about to ask.
It doesn't seem anything.
It got good reviews.
It got good reviews.
Wow.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's not my cup of tea to go see at the theater. I may give it a watch at home, but
I wouldn't even I know technically it's live animation, but since all the animals are live action, but all the animals were animated, so it's
from what I understand and seen, of basically it's kind of like how Cameron kind of filmed his Avatar movie, but from what I understand, it was just a kid in a big ass blue or green room, no one else around him, no one else to act off of. And it's just him being filmed, and they put everything else in digitally. Wow. The jungle, everything. That kid never stepped foot in one thing of a jungle.
Wow.
When they filmed it. So it's just everything is CGI other than the kid. And by the looks of the trailer, you never know it.
Did you ever see the old, there was a live action Jungle Book in the 90s.
Well, I asked my wife if she wanted to go see the Jungle Book, and she goes, I've seen the animated one, I'm good.
Yeah.
Secret Life of Pets at number 3, that's another animated movie. And then Captain America Civil War at 2, and Finding Dory is number 1.
Interesting.
So that's where it stands now. Now, as I said before I started reading all this is probably going to change because we still have some fairly decent movies coming out later on in 2016. And that just goes back to what I think we talked about last time on my podcast. There's really no, quote, summer movie season the way I see it anymore. It's so spread out anymore that it's just one big blockbuster. It seems like there's at least one potential tentpole / blockbuster movie almost every month anymore, it seems like, because we get the 14th movie in the MCU with Doctor Strange on November 4th with Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams and Mads Mikkelsen, who's playing the bad guy. I don't know. Have you seen any of the trailers for Doctor Strange?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
It looks really good.
Yes, it does to me, too. I was reading an interview Kevin Feige did for talking about Doctor Strange, and he really thinks that Doctor Strange is probably going to have the best character arc, at least in his solo films, as far as he's concerned, since Iron Man.
Good. That's good.
So, and he said, if you didn't know that this Doctor Strange movie is connected to the MCU, you could technically watch it and you would not know that this guy's technically in that world because this is a complete
standalone
movie.
Wasn't that kind of the problem with Ant-Man, was they couldn't decide if they wanted that to be part of the MCU?
Well, this is going to be part of the MCU, but he was making mention that this is such a standalone movie that if you didn't already know that this was going to be a Marvel movie and connected to this whole bigger universe, you could have gone in and thinking, oh, this is just a standalone movie. So,
by the way, I really liked Ant-Man. When I said problem, I meant production problems by losing Edgar Wright, by making it connected. Even though it was part of the MCU, but having cameos from Falcon and all that, I think is why they parted ways.
And I think this is part of the reason why Marvel's been able to do so well with their movies is they make most, other than their Avenger movies, everything else they do is technically kind of pseudo standalone other than maybe Civil War. And although a lot of these movies nowadays are getting more and more little small characters added into them, but you still get the main character, whoever the title of the movie is it's still more focused on that particular character than it is as anybody else. The exception would probably be the third Captain America movie with being Civil War. So, and then of course also there's little Disney movie, which Disney's got to be cleaning up this year. I mean, because now you get another Star Wars movie with Rogue One in December, which I'm going to guess should be a huge hit. The executives at Disney have come out, and I found that kind of funny. They came out and said, we are not expecting this to do Force Awakens numbers. We realize this is not the Force Awakens. It's not connected because it's not connected. And this is the first time they're doing, quote, a Star Wars movies that's not connected to any of the trilogies. So, as they said, this is, quote, an experiment in their mind. They're wanting it to do good, but they're not expecting it to do $1 billion at the box office. No. I think if it hits $1 billion, they wouldn't, sneeze at it or anything like that. But from what I've seen of the trailers, I like where they're going with it. And I keep hearing it's supposed to be kind of like a
prequel. Like, I thought, haven't we learned that we don't like prequels anymore?
Yeah, but then again, you could also make an argument, although this may be a prequel, but it's also not necessarily connected with a trilogy as being a prequel.
It's about different characters.
It's about different characters, and it's kind of a standalone type of movie, and it's not going to be branched off into 2 or 3 others afterwards. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it because this is supposed to be, quote, a war type of movie. And from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be quite fun.
Which is interesting because Star Wars has never really been
a war. So it'd be interesting to see. Plus, we also get the return of Darth Vader in this, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. James Earl Jones is going to voice it. Good.
He's going to voice it. He doesn't have a huge role in the movie. Ben Mendelsohn. Mm-hmm. He's the one playing the main villain for the Empire. He's your main villain, that guy there. But Vader is to have a prominent role in the movie, but he's not going to be the main. I think he's going to kind of.
I'm not going to lie. It kind of weirds me out to see Forrest Whitaker in this movie.
He's actually playing a character from the animated Clone Wars that ran for 5 years.
Really?
They're taking one of those characters out of that, and he's actually playing that particular character in this. So,
do you know why that weirds me out, though?
Why?
It reminds me of a certain movie that he did, a sci-fi movie.
Aliens 3? Was he in? He was in Aliens 3, right?
I think so. I haven't seen that since I've only seen that once, and I was pretty young.
I'm pretty sure he was in that.
No, there's a worse movie.
No.
Thanks Scientology. Battlefield Earth.
Oh, with John Travolta?
So, when I saw him, and I really like Forrest Whitaker, but for some reason seeing him dressed up in that gear, the first thing that hit my head was that horrible Battlefield Earth movie, and I was like, I just gotta let it go. He's a good actor. He can be in more than one sci-fi. But yeah, it's really funny that's the first thing I thought of.
Now I got to look up because I may be mistaken with Forrest Whitaker in Aliens 3. Cause I could be thinking of a different actor. I got to look that up because I don't want to let this go and end up being wrong. So
my friend tells me
that would not be a good thing. Okay, I'm thinking. Okay, it was Charles S. Dutton that I'm thinking about, who was in Aliens 3. That's who I was thinking about. So no, Forrest Whitaker was not in Aliens 3. So my apologies. It was Charles Dutton. So okay, we have that corrected. You don't have to send me an email saying you're wrong, dude.
Well, my friend lets me know when I'm wrong about something.
How often does that happen?
Only a couple times.
Okay.
I try to do my research now.
There's a few other movies coming out that look interesting. I don't know if I will go see them for sure. I don't know. There's maybe 2 of these 3 movies that we're going to talk about real quick here that I might go see. One is Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner about a mysterious spacecraft touchdown across the globe, and an elite team led by expert linguist Louise Banks, played by Amy Adams, is brought together to investigate as mankind teeters on the verge of global war. Banks and the team race against time for answers, and to find them, she will take a chance that could threaten her life and quite possibly humanity. I've seen the trailer to this movie. It looks really, really interesting, and I don't want to say it's it kind of reminded me of another type of sci-fi movie like this, and I don't mean Independence Day or anything like that. It looked like it could be a really good movie. Good. And then there's another sci-fi movie coming out in December called Passengers with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen that trailer?
Mm-hmm.
That looks really good. Basically, Pratt and Lawrence's characters are on this spaceship that are that's flying to a different planet, and it takes 120 years to get there, and they're every 5,000 passengers are all in hyper sleep in order to get there because it's going to take 120 years to get there, and for some reason those two characters are woken 90 years too early. It's discovered that something's not right with the ship, and they're the ones that end up having to save the day. But it's also got a couple other big names in there that also pop up in brief. I think it looks like cameos. And then, of course, the Harry Potter franchise, so to speak, is making a return to the movies, but not what you would think. This Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is being released in November. The director who did the last 4 Harry Potter movies is directing it, David Yates, and this screenplay was actually written by J.K. Rowling herself. It's taking place in the 1920s New York. They're taking a little bit darker tone like the last couple of...
take place in the same, like, Hogwarts type world?
Yes, but set back way back in the 1920s, so it's kind of prequel, so to speak. But they just released a really big full-length trailer as of this podcast that I haven't really gotten to watch yet, but it's supposed to have darker tones like the last couple of Harry Potter movies did. I'm guessing that if this is really good or anywhere close to what the Harry Potter movies are, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Harry Potter or Lord Voldemort, my guess is that movie will probably clean up as well. I didn't write down to see what's coming in 2017, but I know, the typical superhero movies are coming. I know Wonder Woman's coming. Justice League is coming. I know Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is coming, along with Thor Ragnarok next year. Was 2016 better or worse than 2015? Or just average?
Worse.
Of course, I can't remember what all came out in 2015 at this point off the top of my head either.
Yes, Deadpool was really good. Civil War and Star Trek were really good, but that was it. And considering everything else, I would say that it was a pretty disappointing year. Last year, we had Age of Ultron, Ant-Man. I didn't like Jurassic World, but it came out. There were some other things.
We had the James Bond movie.
Spectre. Oh, yeah, Spectre, which was really... Oh, of course, Star Wars.
Force Awakens.
Yeah. And then also, like, the...
that was the box office champ for 2015.
What was that one movie? I just watched it again the other day. The Revenant, really good movie. Oh, Mad Max. Yeah, 2015 was way better.
Okay.
Like, way better than this. Like, this one, like, we had, like, 3 good movies, and the rest, like, where it went from suck to meh.
Yeah.
I mean...
Now, then again, we say 3 good movies, but we haven't watched every movie that's come out either.
But as far as like action and sci-fi, like I pretty much caught them all. The ones that I didn't catch were like Independence Day 2, which looked terrible. So
I think to me, if they were going to do a sequel to Independence Day, they needed to be doing that before 2000 hit. I mean, they really should have been trying to do that a lot sooner and a lot closer to taking advantage of the success of the first one and not wait 20 years to do the second one.
Yeah, right.
I think that's where. I think you lost a part of the appeal to that one. And to me, it looked like from the trailers...
Well, the original movie does not age well at all.
No.
Go back and watch that. And that is like the most 90s. The jokes are bad. The special effects are really terrible. The whole like portrayal of the government is really bad. They are obviously jumping on the tail of X-Files, which was really popular back then with the conspiracy theories and all that. And
Men in Black that came out a year later seems to hold up better than what Independence Day
because Men in Black is still funny, but like Independence Day, it's like we all love Will Smith and we all love Jeff Goldblum, but when you watch it, it's more like a novelty. It's more like, oh, remember what things were like in 96? Yeah, they're actually pretty good. The end. It doesn't really do much else. And the special effects, which they looked awesome in 96, now look like a PS2 game. I mean, it's crazy.
I think in 2017, the movie with the most pressure from what we'll end up probably going to see is got to be Wonder Woman at this point.
Yeah.
Now, Wonder Woman's got a whole DC universe riding on its shoulders and hoping of being the first, quote, decent DC movie.
I am going to predict, though, I mean, obviously 2016 isn't done yet. I'm going to predict, though, that... Doctor Strange is going to be really good.
Oh, yeah. It looks really good. Especially...
I'm not sure how I feel about Rogue One yet. I really don't know if that's going to be good or not. I can't really tell. It'll be good, but I can't tell if it's going to be a great movie or not, Like, if Doctor Strange isn't great, I would be disappointed because it looks awesome.
Uh-huh.
Like, it looks really good. Rogue One, I can't really base an opinion on yet. I can't really figure out what I think about it.
I think Rogue One is going to get its initial hit on its opening weekend, obviously, and then after that, the reviews are going to have a play in it, and then also word of mouth. If everyone, even if the critics, let's say, are not overly enthused with it, but people come out of the theaters and talk everyone's friends like, oh, you got to go see this movie. This is good. You know, and Vader's back and he's a badass again. Then I think Rogue One will do very well. It may not do Force Awakens numbers or even like maybe, I don't know what the Empire Strikes Back this technically now is with adjusted inflation, but I think it'll do really good. And I think Rogue One's going to have the appeal just knowing that Vader is back. And so far they've done the trailers right by only giving you, so far in the two or three trailers they have released for Rogue One, they've only given you a 2-second glimpse of Vader so far, and that was in the last trailer. So if you really want to see what's going on with Vader, you're going to have to go to the theater to see it, and I look forward to seeing that.
It would be nice to see more evil Vader, like we
ruthless, cutthroat,
how he was
no
before
mercy.
Return of the Jedi.
Kind of like he was in Empire, type of thing. You know, don't screw me over, or I'm
because he went from being one of the meanest, scariest villains, like up there with the Joker and Professor Moriarty, and he still is, but in Return of the Jedi, it's like, oh, he's sad, and it's like, shut up, who cares? He helped blow up an entire planet, like, who cares about his feelings?
And then if you go back to the prequels with episodes 1, 2, and 3, that also, I think, kind of lowered his quote.
I mean, I guess he is evil in the third one. He was under a lot of stress, though, as every character keeps reminding you. That is some bad writing. Oh, Anakin's just under a lot of stress. Well, he's under a lot, like, Mace Windu says it, Yoda says it, Padme says it, C-3PO says it, Obi-Wan says it. Everybody just keeps telling the audience he's under a lot of stress. It's like, so what? I've got midterms due. I'm under a lot of stress too.
I can make a different joke, but I won't go there. I want to keep this a quota-friendly
podcast. I've made that joke already. I'm sure everyone else has.
I know you're working on for your True Believers, you're working on a kind of a special Halloween type of podcast that will eventually follow this podcast.
What we're doing, I haven't done, Sean and I did a Halloween one a couple years ago. I want to do another Halloween one.
Don't give it away. Obviously.
I'm not doing a comic book. I'm doing it based on a movie. I'm going to do I'm not going to say what the title is, but it is a classic Bela Lugosi movie. Get ready to be spookified.
And it's not probably what you think it is either with Lugosi. So.
And Reggie and I watch it together because he hasn't seen it yet. So
no, I've not.
Get ready for this classic Bela Lugosi tale of
I've done my homework on the internet with it, but I have not seen it. No, it looks interesting. Of course, you'll be able to check out that podcast and other podcasts from the True Believers. Definitely go check their stuff out. They got a lot of good stuff on there. I know I've said this before, but the one with George Lawson is awesome. Podcast. You really need to get him back on at some point.
Yeah.
You can find his links on middle of my page on ReggieTake.com. Of course, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. All that stuff is also on my ReggieTake.com. Thank you for listening. We will return for podcast number 28. Thank you, James, and we'll talk at you later.